Today, we're diving into one of the most powerful and foundational stories in Islam, the story of Adam. He's known as the first man, but he was also the first prophet. And his story, well, it's not just some ancient tale. It's a narrative that really tries to answer some of the biggest questions we all have about life.
I mean, it's the ultimate question, right? Why are we here? What's the whole point of it all? Well, in the Islamic tradition, the answer to that question starts before us. Way before us. To really get it, we have to go back to a time before humanity, to a conversation that took place in the heavens. A conversation that literally set the stage for everything that was to come. So here's where it all kicks off. God, Allah, announces to the angels that he's got a plan. He's going to place a Khalifa on earth, which basically means a successor, a steward, someone to be a guardian of the planet. Now the angels, who are these pure beings, they were a little confused by this. From their perspective, they could see how a being with free will might cause a lot of trouble, corruption, bloodshed. So they ask, why would you create something that might mess up when you have us and we are perfectly devoted to you? It's a really deep and honest question. God's reply? It's so simple, but it's absolutely profound. It's this beautiful statement that just hints at a much bigger picture, a divine wisdom that the angels couldn't yet see. And with that, the plan was set in motion. Okay, so the plan is in place. The next step is the actual creation of this first human. And the way it's described is this incredible mix of the physical and the spiritual, tying humanity directly to the earth we live on. This whole process is just fascinating. The tradition says that the clay was gathered from all over the planet. Red clay, black clay, white clay, soil that was soft, soil that was hard. And this is seen as the very reason we have such incredible human diversity in our appearances and our personalities. Then once the form is shaped, God breathes a divine soul into it, and literally the first thing Adam does is sneeze and say, "Praise be to God." His first action is one of gratitude. And this is where it gets really interesting. To show the angels the wisdom in this plan, God gave Adam a special gift, the knowledge of the names of everything. He knew their nature, their purpose. When God asked the angels, they said, "We only know what you have taught us." But Adam could name them all. This just brilliantly showed that humanity's role wasn't just about perfect blind obedience. It was also about learning, understanding, and taking care of the world. All right, so Adam has been created, and his incredible capacity for knowledge has been established. Now the action moves to paradise for the first big test. And this involves not just Adam and the angels, but also a powerful being named Iblis, who you might know as Satan.
Now this is a super important point. God commanded the angels to bow down to Adam, but this wasn't an act of worship. Worshipping anyone but God is the biggest sin in Islam. No, this was a command from God to show respect for this new, amazing creation that held so much potential.
And right here we see the first great split. The angels, they immediately obeyed. They understood this was part of God's wisdom. But Iblis, who was a jinn, a being made from smokeless fire, not an angel made of light, he flat out refused. His pride just wouldn't let him do it. And his reasoning, it's right there in the Quran. He basically says, "I'm better than him. You made me from fire, and you made him from clay." In that single sentence, you see the core of his rebellion, pure arrogance. He judged Adam based on his physical origin, thinking his was superior. It's often seen as the very first act of racism and pride, a direct defiance of God's will.
So after this showdown, Adam is given a companion, Hawa or Eve. They're living in paradise in a state of complete bliss. I mean, they have everything they could ever want. And there's just one rule, a single, simple rule. Stay away from one particular tree. That's it.
But of course, this perfect life in paradise is about to face a major test. Iblis, who's been banished, sees his chance to get revenge, not on God directly, but on his new, honored creation. And this sets the stage for humanity's very first big choice.
Now listen, the Islamic sources are very, very clear on this. Iblis tempted them both. The story does not put the blame on Eve. This is a really big deal, and a major difference from some other traditions. It was a shared mistake, a moment where they both forgot the warning and were tricked into thinking that tree held some secret to immortality.
So what did they do the moment they realized their mistake? They didn't blame each other, they didn't make excuses, they felt immediate shame and turned right back to God.
In fact, God himself taught them these exact words to say. It's this beautiful prayer of humility, acknowledging their mistake and their total need for God's mercy.
And this right here, this is one of the most important takeaways from the entire story. Because their repentance was sincere, God completely forgave them. The slate was wiped clean. And this means there is no concept of original sin in Islam. Their mistake was personal, and it was not inherited by the rest of us. Every single human being is born pure, with a clean slate, responsible only for their own choices. That's a huge concept.
So, they've been forgiven. But what happens now? Well, now begins their journey on Earth, which, if you remember from the beginning, was actually the plan all along.
Think back to what God told the angels. I will place a successor on Earth. Their time in paradise, the test, the mistake, the repentance, it was a huge, profound lesson. But their ultimate destiny, their real mission, was always meant to be right here, on this planet.
But life on Earth brought a whole new set of challenges. The story of their sons, Qabil and Habil, or Cain and Abel, shows us the first appearance of humanity's darker side. Jealousy over a sacrifice leads to the world's first murder. It's a tragic story, but even in that darkness, there's a lesson of mercy, as God sends a crow to teach the remorseful Cain how to perform the very first burial.
So, after a long life filled with incredible highs and lows, with trial, error, and divine guidance, what was the legacy that Adam left for his children, and ultimately for all of us? Get this, Islamic tradition says that Adam lived for about 1,000 years, and that wasn't just a long time to be alive, it was a long mission. A whole millennium spent teaching and guiding the very first generations of humanity as they started to figure out life on Earth. As the very first prophet, Adam laid the foundation for everything. He taught the most important concept of all, the absolute oneness of God. But he also taught them practical things they needed to build a society, how to farm, how to build, how to create a family, and even how to honor the dead. You see, in the end, Adam's story isn't just about the distant past. It's really a mirror for our own lives. It shows us that we come from a place of incredible honor, that we have the capacity to make mistakes, but, and this is the key, we always have a direct path back to God through sincere repentance. It frames our entire lives as this journey of learning, messing up, and always having the chance to return to a merciful Creator.